Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Do I seem green? It feels like there's a lot of green happening here. I just wanted to talk to you, give you an update on what I'm reading. I've been kind of struggling with finding video ideas as of late. I do have a lot that include like a reading challenge where I would read certain books of a certain theme or something, and I do have ideas for vlogs, but it's just lately life has been a little hectic, and also it's Christmas season, so everyone's coming out with Christmas themed videos. I don't really celebrate Christmas. In Russia, Christmas is in January anyway, and I also am not a seasonal reader, so I don't have, you know, Christmas themed books for you or like winter recommendations. But I thought I would just give you this reading update and hope for the best. So I've decided to cancel my membership with Scribd. So my membership ends on December 18th. The reason why is just because I feel like I have enough books around me. I have enough ebooks, have enough physical books, and I also have the access to the New York Public Library, which has so many audiobooks and ebooks that I use, that I don't really need a paid membership to Scribd. Now Scribd has some books that are not available anywhere else, and for these 2 months I've been enjoying those books, and I was very specific. I went through the things that I wanted to read and I double checked that they were not available anywhere else, so I was not, you know, wasting my time on something that I could have gotten for free in the library. So yeah, I've been going through audiobooks really fast, which has been great. I enjoy audiobooks. However, there's this thing that Scribd does that I absolutely hate, and I don't know if it's, well, I know that it's not just me, I just don't know how widely spread this is when you get a little, as when you approach the time of your membership renewal, all like popular titles, not just popular, just a lot of titles suddenly become unavailable, and the date they become available is the date that you would renew your membership, which sucks so much because it's just, I just don't think it's a great strategy for the company, because instead of motivating me to pay for next month and get that title, I'm just angry and bitter because, you know, when I pay for a whole month, I expect to get that whole month, not just like half a month and then half a month of only titles that are not popular. So that got me a little upset. But anyway, let's go back to the books that I've enjoyed. So last time I talked to you, I was in the middle of A Fatal Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, which is the sort of true crime historical book all about murder in ancient Rome, how it worked, what were the laws around it, famous murders, and yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I can't say that if you know absolutely nothing about ancient Rome that you'll be fine listening to this. She just mentions certain things and doesn't stop and explain them to you. If you're reading it with your eyes instead of listening to an audiobook, I mean, you can always look it up while you read, so it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. And yeah, it was, in times it's so funny. The tone is so light, and she makes very funny comparisons to our lives right now. Though, I mean, I say that it's very funny, and it is funny, but, you know, the topic is murder, and there are chapters that are just hard to read. The whole chapter that was about, you know, the role and the place of slavery in ancient Rome is just heartbreaking, and then she's also talking about the gladiators and what that whole sport was and what was it for, and it made me really happy that I'm not living in ancient Rome, as especially as a woman. It wasn't fun. But yeah, I'm really glad I read it. I enjoyed it a lot. I gave it 4 stars. It's not my favorite book of the year, but I really enjoyed it. You know, I have some books lined up that deal with or talk about ancient Roman leaders and rulers. I have, you know, a book about Caligula. I have a buddy read in January with John from Hey Yo Listen Up. We're reading I, Claudius. If you want to join us, let me know. We can make it happen. So this was like a good, if not an intro, but like a good, you know, setting of the stage of what life was like, so that when I read those books, I will have a little more of a perspective, hopefully. Then I listened to Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. Oh my god. It's so good. I was not expecting to like it as much. So out of the 4 Riley Sager books, I read 3 now. The only one that I've yet to read is Last Time I Lied, I think it's called. And my favorite one so far was Lock Every Door, because I loved the setting. I loved how, you know, creepy and awesome it is, and all the turns and twists, and so when I thought of Home Before Dark, which is a story about like a haunted house, is it haunted? Is it not haunted? It sounds like a story that's been told many times, and I was not expecting it to surprise me as much as it did. All the twists and all the turns, and there are so many stories within that one story, and it was scary to me. It's not like a horror book, but it was so creepy. I have to say, when I finished the book, that's when I sort of allowed myself to fully go into, you know, envisioning everything, and it was just as creepy knowing how it all ends. I also love in books with the twists and turns when one of the twists sounds like the solution, if that makes sense. Like, you get to a twist and you're like, oh, okay, I know what's going on. This explains everything. But then there's another twist, and it turns out that the twist before that was not what you think, and it's just, I love that. And I know that a lot of people really like this book, and I did expect to give it 4 stars, also because I like Riley Sager and everything he's written. I've given at least 4 stars, but this one was definitely 5 stars for me. Then I found a book on Scribd, which I've had on my TBR for a long time, but I can't remember when and why I added it to my TBR, and it's called Face of Death. And this is the first book in a series of detective stories books about an FBI agent who has who doesn't see the world as most people do. She sees everything in numbers. Her mind automatically calculates everything around her. Anything that can be calculated, it's calculated. And so like, she knows exactly how far from this wall to that wall, and she can gauge a person's weight and height just by looking at them. Like, it's so yeah, she sees everything in numbers, and she doesn't tell anyone about it. It's like a secret skill that she has, and she feels very ashamed about it. That's why she doesn't tell anyone. And in the beginning of this book, she gets a new partner, and they start solving murders, and the book is about a case with a serial killer. And what our main character, what she's very good at, is obviously finding patterns. And what's happening with this serial killer is that there doesn't seem to be any pattern whatsoever. And what surprised me is just how high the average rating for this book is. And so I thought, okay, I mean, usually the latter books in a series get a higher rating, but this is the first one in the series, so it must be really good. And I listened to it, and I mean, it was good. It's just, it felt like watching an episode of maybe Criminal Minds or something. It didn't stay with me for long. It didn't feel I would say that there are episodes in Criminal Minds that were better than this book. Not that this book is bad, it's just not as exciting. When I was thinking about this book, I kept thinking of the book The Whisper Man, because that I remember finishing that and thinking that it also felt like an episode of Criminal Minds, only that was like one of the best episodes of Criminal Minds. And I was thinking, you know, what is the difference between these two? And I think the thing with Whisper Man is that most of the book you're trying to understand who the killer is and why are they doing this, and sort of, so you know, the whole psychology element of Criminal Minds is happening throughout the book, and in the end there's a twist. While in Face of Death, you spend most of the book trying to catch him instead of trying to, you know, understand who is it, if that makes sense. So it was more like, let's catch this killer instead of let's figure out what's happening and who could it possibly be. So it was nice. I think I gave it 4 stars because, you know, there's nothing wrong with this book. It's great. It's just it didn't leave a strong impression. And then I mentioned in my latest TBR editions A Light Amongst Shadows, which is a YA paranormal LGBT mystery horror book. And it was available on Scribd, and I read it and I gave it 5 stars, and then I read the sequel and I gave it 5 stars, and then I read a novella and I gave it like 4 stars. It was so good. I don't know why more people are not talking about this book. Like, the romance is great, and the like horror creepy aspect is so good and scary and creepy, and the characters are all incredible. I thought it was so good. Oh, by the way, it's historical. Completely forgot. Yeah, so the kind of story is a boy starts a school for boys in the Victorian era, and it's sort of secluded, and it has this like a big old building, and at night he hears weird things, but you can't really talk about it because other kids get in trouble if they, you know, mention ghosts or anything. And there he becomes enamored with this very silent and shy kid, and yeah, they get to know each other better, and they solve the ghost situation in the school. And then I read the sequel, which is A Hymn in the Darkness. And this book is now like 3 or 4 years after the events of the first one. And is this YA? If they're like 21 or not? There's nothing like explicit in there, but it's not a romance. But they're like, romance is a big element of the book. Now we're reading from the perspective of William, which is the kid that our main character in the first one was obsessed with. And they are hired to, you know, solve a murder that may or may not have paranormal elements to it. And I just loved having these characters. First of all, seeing how they were a little more grown up, seeing where they were in their lives at that point, and also going out of that school and exploring a different setting and different characters. There's such a lovely female character in the second one, which I just loved her. And like overall, I loved these books so much. And the novella that I read, it's like a Christmas novella with these characters after the events of the second book. It's called The Calm Before the Storm, and it's super short. It's like 40 or 50 pages long, and it was very cute. It was very nice. I mean, it's not a 5-star, but it was lovely. These are all the books that I finished. I've started reading Frankenstein, I'm not even on chapter 1, I'm still on letter number 3. So I have nothing to say about this yet. I'm also reading A Faithful Executioner. This will be a buddy read with Tara in January, but since the only place I can find this book is on Scribd and my subscription ends later this month, I'm gonna read it now and take my notes, and we'll discuss it in January. By the way, if you want to take part in that, join us in January as well. Yeah, I'm still in the introduction part, so I have nothing to say about that. So these are the books that I'm reading right now. In terms of other things that I've been enjoying, I watched The Crown season 4 and it was so good. It was so good. And later me and my sister watched the Diana documentary on Netflix, in her own words, which I mean, we cried at the end, of course. Last night we watched the Long Pond studio sessions. Taylor Swift is everything. It gave me life, and hearing them talk about every single song on Folklore, it's been very interesting, especially because ever since the album came out, I was very interested in how she wrote it, because of how different in sound it is, and finding out that most of the songs she wrote on existing tracks made sense to me. Yeah, I just love Taylor Swift so much. Anyway, this is it for this super long video. I hope this was interesting to you. I hope editing won't be as bad as I think it probably will be. Anyway, have a great day. I will see you in my next video.